Morning, Bulldogs. It is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. Today's news and assignment updates will be our last normal video for our honors classes. Of course, you can still feel free to check in with our other classes for the remainder of the week just to get reminders on what's going on and, of course, news updates. There will be 2 more videos, none that you have to do an assignment for. One will be a review video for our final assessment, which you will want to catch. And also, excuse me, an end of the year video, which usually students enjoy seeing. So today's news stories go back to being about the coronavirus. You'll see the graphic here that says just how deadly this virus has been compared to other disasters, like the 1918 flu pandemic or Hurricane Katrina, or just a normal flu season. And you can see the numbers in orange. It's been pretty devastating. There's further articles that discuss how places are reopening despite the fact that the virus is increasing and spreading in some areas. And we'll have to be mindful of what happens for that. And also, I'm sure many of you biomed students have been learning about the bottom left corner, the rush to try to get a vaccine ready for next year so that it doesn't become as devastating again next year. There are still stories about the death of Mr. George Floyd. He was buried yesterday in Houston. He had his final memorial there. But if you go on and scroll down and see some of the articles on it, it discusses and shows in graphs how the Black Lives Matter movement has gained as much support in the past 2 weeks as it took them to get in the previous 2 years. So what about this time is different, how it's gaining momentum and support and hopefully subsequent actions. So things you may want to look up on. And the BBC news for today is quite different. The lead story is about the Prime Minister of Sweden, who was assassinated in 1986. He was walking home with his wife after watching a movie. He already dismissed his security staff for the day. It was a crowded, busy street, and he was shot in the back. And for years, no one knew who did it. All these conspiracy theories were flying, but now they're saying that they know who did it. It was Stig Engstrom, who I believe was a graphic designer. They cannot arrest him because he actually killed himself in 2000. So an interesting article if you're interested in those kind of stories. There are some stories you see above related to the coronavirus, how it's going to impact the economy, about Italy, about schools. What are countries doing about schools? This pertains to you, right? What do you want your school to look like in the fall? Do you think it will be normal? Do you want changes? What do you expect to happen? And then this bottom bar of stories are mostly all stories related to the United States and things that have happened since the death of Mr. George Floyd. Gone with the Wind is now off HBO Max for various reasons. They say one thing it does is it glorifies the antebellum South with slavery and like how slaves adored their owners and didn't show the horrors of it. They said they will return it with like a historical discussion at a later date. Hattie McDaniel, who's sort of cut off there, by the way, is the first African-American woman to be nominated for and win an Academy Award for her role in the film. CEO of CrossFit quit. He had some poor remarks, not smart things he said, and revealed some racist attitudes after Floyd died. So no one wants to deal with that. Some solutions to the police dilemma in the United States, which has been a common story the past week or two. And also Cops, which has been on for about 25 years, is now going to be pulled. It used to be on Fox, and now it's on some other station. But they're saying because it treats the cops like action heroes, and it takes other communities, mostly low-income communities, and really makes them look negative. So that show apparently will not be on anymore. And the Scotland death toll rose. I know for 2 days they did not have any deaths. All right, so today for On This Day in History, if you're still finishing up your timelines for the end of the year project. This might be something you wish to put on it. This is related to the unit that we're covering today of World War II. And this was the Distomo Massacre in Greece. So notice this is just about a couple days after D-Day, and Germans were aware that the momentum may have been turning the tide against them. And members of the SS were in Greece. Now, Greece was occupied by Nazis at the time. And basically, they attacked this town. Now, the initial story was that there were these guerrilla fighters who were attacking the Nazis, and then this is how they retaliated. But some historical evidence suggests that maybe that didn't even trigger them, that it was just that had no trigger, right? You can go and research that yourself. But basically, they went door to door and they massacred this village. That included men, women, pregnant women, babies. So if you saw yesterday's video, we saw an awful story about a hanging in France, which also happened in France today as well, of resistance fighters. This story being even more appalling than that. I watched a video last night on it to sort of prepare me for this, and it was awful. I can't even share all the stories here, how bad it was. So if you're interested or you want to learn more about this, I would go to YouTube and just search Distomo Massacre. It's probably the first one that will come up. It was in Greek. Some people were speaking German, but there were subtitles. But I just want to prepare you that it was very disturbing, the stories and survivors and sharing what they saw as children. Some of these quotes, which I got, this is from Wikipedia, but it just gives you here an example of things that they did. Okay, so today's assignment is a World War II one-pager. I know some days I like making it easy and simple and just doing Google Forms. It's easy for me to grade, easy for you to complete. But I know that you guys also are very creative, and to learn better, you need to be more interactive. And I saw like what you did with your Da Vinci notebooks this year, and I want you sort of to have one last chance to do those sort of things this year. And I also know how important it is to give you guys choice. So this assignment should give you guys lots of choice. And you're doing a one-pager. Maybe you've done that for other classes. I know they're popular in middle school. My daughter does them quite often, so you've probably done them before. Today, your sources for your one-pager will be one video from my old YouTube channel, which will be on Canvas, you'll see. Also then facts on file. So you have 4 main squares, or rectangle, let's call them boxes. So one main box will be with information from that video, which is the beginnings of World War II. The other 3, you're going to use facts on file. So let's do this very quickly. Hear the birds out here today? Okay, so you're going to go to students. I can't ask you how many people emailed me how to do this yesterday. And I was like, please, I make these videos every day. I know you don't want to watch them. I know you're sick of hearing my voice. But I do them for a purpose. Please go watch it, I said. Now, if you have trouble logging on, I'm not going to give you the login and password over the video. You should have it because you should have logged on to Facts and Files since we've been in home instruction, but email me or email a classmate if you have trouble. So once you're at here, and hopefully you are following along there, you go to World War II. And here, you'll see dozens of different things you can pick from. So you pick what do you want to focus on, right? You can focus on U.S. artillery, landmines, Japanese-American soldiers, the U.S. Army Air Corps, all right? Prisoners of war, the war in the Pacific, aircraft carriers, African-American soldiers, sailors, and Marines, PT boats, right? The Tuskegee Airmen, so on and so forth. There's like dozens of different things, right? You see here, like how many pages of World War II stuff can there be? There's also primary sources. Primary sources, most people don't pick them because they're speeches and things. You'll see that it asks you for a quote. A primary source might be a good place to go for a quote. Like you see the top one here even has a quote. So another common email yesterday was, I can't find quotes. So there you go. Images, you can even use an image if you want to. Instead of read an article, you can find an image. There's even some videos which may help you with quotes as well. The timelines in the news isn't really World War II related, so I wouldn't go there. Okay, so you're going to pick 3 things. If you start reading one, you're like, I don't like this, pick another one, right? This is all your choice. So then in each box, right, you want to put a label. So, so for example, if you're going to do the World War I artillery video, the label would just be World War I artillery. That way I can go back and see where you're getting it from. All right. Then you want a key date from it, a key name. Now, some people said I did artillery, but there's not a key name. Can I do the Springfield rifle? I said, make sure there's no names, but if there really are no names, then yes, you can do an item or an event, something like that. And then essential idea or analysis. This does not mean a paragraph, but like a bullet on what's going on here. The image, if you do this digitally, you can, of course, just copy and paste the image. If you're doing it by hand, you're not graded on your artistic ability. Stick figures are just fine. Okay, so the middle label, the middle rectangle will be labeled World War II. And then on the outside, you're going to have a quote. And I showed you guys how to get to that. And on Canvas, you'll see exactly like how many points everything is worth. As long as it's there, you'll get the credit. 2 nights ago, I made this very poor example. I made mine on World War I instead of World War II. I did this in 10 minutes. Yours should look better than this, even if you're not an artist. Okay, but I just wanted to show you how, in each one I put a label, a date, a name. My analysis here is probably too brief, even though it can be brief, but I wanted just to show you how, an idea of how it would be. I've been seeing some really cool work so far. This is your basic template, whether you're doing it digitally or by hand. So try to follow this format, and feel free to look up online if you've never done a one-pager before, some examples of one-pagers. So I picked 2 World War I one-pagers to share with you guys. You see use of color helps, right? This should help you make connections. It should help with retaining this knowledge that you learned today, and hopefully give you a creative outlet, and maybe get off a computer a little bit and get your hands on paper, unless you decide to do it digitally. The left is one from World War II. This person focused on Patton, but I just shared that because you see the same template that we're using today. Just a reminder, your final portfolio is due today. A lot of people are like, oh, this is a whole new project. This should be something that literally takes you a couple of minutes, right? You're literally like finding your links to your portfolios, finding your last contest, and copying and pasting the links. I did have some people emailing me that they had trouble with the timelines, that their spreadsheet wasn't converting to a timeline like it should. I really don't want people just sending me the spreadsheets, because I want you to see the visual of the timeline. So feel free to, try to get a hold of other classmates. Hey, like my spreadsheet's not working. I know I tried to look at some people's spreadsheets and help some out. Some people said, well, can I just make a different timeline instead? Can I just use another digital format or do it on a piece of paper? Yes, you definitely can. I just don't want to make this much more work for you guys. I was hoping the spreadsheet should convert to the timeline pretty simply. So if you want to put in that time, that is your call. Now, later today, I will have up a reading that will be used for your final assessment. I will give it to you now so that you can annotate it and read it and become familiar with it before the assessment. And I'm going to also put up, I'm going to post it as like a discussion as well, so that you guys can list questions. So any questions you have on that reading, I'll give you a certain day, but as long as you have it up by, I will make a video where I address all those questions and review the reading with you guys. So just keep an eye out for that. I know it might seem like a lot today, but most of you have those final year projects done. And like I said, the goal is that should be super easy. Okay, so I miss you guys. I'm proud of everything you've been doing. We're almost there. You're almost done with this. I miss you guys and hope all is well.